Thank you very much for inviting me for this participation here. But I think that my real thank is thanks to the project, because you are delivering and giving answers for those that we pose questions in the institutions and universities. So thank you for the project. We are really waiting for the results and the final deliverables. But thank you also for inviting me, because when Ignacy first told me about come here and just share with you this minutes of talk, I was thinking about it. I will explain the Open Science Policy Platform, the high-level expectations of the European policies, but he asked me to play the role of the research performing organizations, which I really are. I can happily wear the hat of librarian, because I'm a librarian by training. I'm happy to wear the hat of the policymaker, because I'm advising in this platform. But I'm very happy to share with you what we really think the institutions, the vice-rectors, the rectors, what I'm thinking. This talk, preparing this talk, was really an exercise for me to think about what I'm going to say to my rector, or what I've already said to him. So what I'm going to talk about is that we are here. Actually, when we answer the Survey of Learn project, I said that we are here, that we are in the path to make a policy. But we don't have a full-fledged policy on open data and data management. We play by ear, because all the things that happen very quickly. We don't have a national policy in Spain, which is not very useful, because we are just inheriting the European policies, which is what we have in place. But what I'm going to talk about what is the objective of my talk, is just showing you the challenges that we are facing in the research data in three big challenging landscapes. One is the open science landscape. The other one is the open data landscapes. Open data as the whole thinking of open data as transparency and the policy of open data. And also the research data, the challenging data science, which is a science that is now in construction, and nobody knows exactly what it is, and everybody wants to play a role in the new data science. I think your talk is going to be, or your talk is going to be more inspiring than mine in this sense. And also the role of the researchers, and Daniel has a very clear role in the data scientist part of the play that you have to develop in this frame. But what I'm really going to share with you is some ideas and some reflections that I'm doing in my own role in the University Carlos III of Madrid. Actually, to be honest, I'm not talking about the research performing organizations as such. I'm talking about the perspective of a Spanish research performing organization, and more particularly my own organization, which is the one that I really know. So, but I think where I'm just thinking in loud voice, and perhaps probably those that you have the role that making policies in an institutional level, you have thinking about the same issues that I'm facing right now. In one hand, the point of the research data management, the research data policies, out of the country that happened with the open access, that was kind of a movement that came bottom up, and then the policies embrace the movement. I think the open data is really a part of the open science setup. It's kind of something that happened from the top level to the researchers. And I think the real approach is kind of coming and have an understanding from the top down to the bottom up. The researchers, also the institution, and also the big policy makers. We recently, in my university, we have recently approved the strategic plan for 2016 and 2021, I guess, 2022. And in that strategic plan, we say very bravely that we're going to make an open science policy. So that's why we are waiting for the perfect policy. And one of my conclusions that I will share with you at the end of this talk is that there is not a perfect policy. The good policy is the one that is in place, because I'm waiting. And every time I have a talk with the rector, and now I told him, well, now we are representing JERUN, the Young European Research Universities, in this Open Science Policy Platform. Let's wait, and we will have a common understanding for the whole JERUN network, and then we will do the policy. No, I think it's a big mistake. We have to go when the policies and when the things that we have. But the real context where we are facing is a systemic change that is happening in the modus operandi we do research. We can say that the new setup of the science is changing because many factors, and you can just see in bold the things that I think there are keywords in this kind of landscape. One is digital. We can, Daniel was speaking about having things machine readable. I think something that is not digital, it doesn't exist anymore. It's a principle that Tim Berners-Lee says about the web. Something that is not on the web, it doesn't exist. That's, I think, kind of in this context of scholarly communication, I think is becoming true. Also, it's global. Also, we have a public demand on making science more efficient. Also, we have a public demand of making universities more transparent. That's why we are leading this open data movement. And also, we need to address faster societal challenges and contribute to the economic growth. This is a huge thing, you know. We cannot address that. But this is the setup, and this is it's because of the exponential growth of data. But I don't know really if it was first the chicken or the egg. I don't know, we have an open science and a new modus operandi of science because we have this data deluge, or because all the way around we have this growth of data and we have this new open science and a new landscape to do research. But here we are. This is the fact. As a matter of fact, we are in the open science world. Welcome to Europe, welcome to the open science. Commissioner Moedas said in June 2015, the new policy is open science, open innovation, open to the world. Come on, RPOs, just deal with that. And then we take the globe, the institutions, and we try to make our research more open, more innovative, and more international or global. But this is a huge thing in a very simple way. And we have to manage this systemic change and how to involve all the stakeholders. That's why I'm playing now the role of the research performing organizations, which is one of the biggest stakeholders, all the institutions that we do research in a regular basis, like universities and other things, but there are a lot of many other stakeholders. So when we think about open science, I used to use an umbrella that was over there, but one day it was in my office and I said, I will do my own umbrella. But then when I finished making my pictures with the limited colors that I have in my office, that you can see, when I finished this picture, I say, well, perhaps I need to do more than an umbrella. We need something like a mushroom, because it's something that has to grow in the research integrity basis, in the research infrastructures, and also in the alternative metrics to make incentives happen. So it's not an umbrella that we have in the open science. We have to put the umbrella in the land and really think about what is the role of the open research data in the big landscape of the open science, and where we have to manage and we have to grow this open science landscape based on really things that make it grow, which is the research integrity, a new complete research integrity thing, a new complete approach to global infrastructures. I don't think the research data can bear with yet another repository again. I don't want to see this again. And I think we need new incentives and new ways to measure science. But here we are. This is open by default. And all the universities, we are tackling, we are trying to make a policy or a matter of fact of having some solutions to make science fair. 2 years ago, we just were struggling to make open access publications, and now we have to open our data, and our data have to be fair. And also, I'm missing more R's. I always say that I need more R's. For me it's fair, because we need also the open data reliable and also reproducible, because if the science is not reproducible, it doesn't make sense. So yesterday we have a meeting in our network, Maredata, which is a network in Spanish research data. And we have a discussion about if we really, when we are thinking about opening data, we are thinking about making them reusable. It's like happened in the late 90s when they say, no, we are digitizing. We are making our knowledge accessible. No, digitizing was not making that accessible. It was just digitizing. Publishing your data is not making them reusable, because you can publish them in PDF, or even worse, you cannot publish your presentation beforehand. That's why I just did quickly on Twitter now. And then we are here. This is the common state of a university in 2017 in Europe, January 2017. Every single European project has to share, has to open not only publications but also data. And here we are. Come in, open, we are open. We don't know what to do. We don't have a policy. We don't have a national policy. We don't have a local policy. We don't have a repository. We don't have infrastructures. But we have to deal with this. And on top, we have to do research data findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. What do you think about of all these principles when you are a policymaker in the university? Why? How? Who? It's what my rector told me, why we have to play this open science thing. And I say, well, because we have to, there is no option. It's not a movement like open access, you know, that we are very hippie and we want to share our knowledge. No, this is because it's the policy in Europe. Would you like money from the European Commission? Okay, so make your data findable, accessible, interoperable, reusable, and do it with cost zero, which is the other part of the thing. The common question that somebody asked this morning, how much is going to cost me? So, and at the end, we say, well, why? And what are the questions that we can cover with this why? How does it affect our researchers for promotion, for research assessment? Do we have the metrics in place to evaluate them for sharing their data? Are they willing to do it? No, probably not. We have to make the picture of all these things. And also, how does it affect our research infrastructures? Do we have money to make yet another infrastructure, which is going to be which one? New ones? We can put data in the repository. How can we manage this? How can we convince the researchers that they have to take the data from their computers and share it with the community? And also, how does it affect our teaching and learning? Because the universities, we do research, but we also teach and we also have learning, we have learning students, we have different endeavors in these kind of things. And I think we have to tackle also if we need new literacies, as what we call now soft skills, that they are the skills that they really need our students. And I'm thinking in PhD students and early career people that they need data literacy. And also a wonderful word, transparency. When you say transparency, this is fine. Everything will happen with transparency because we want to be transparent. But this is a new scientific behavior, and we need a new policy for that too. And when you say why, it's very simple, because if you put the research data in the environment and in the framework of open data for the administration, if you are a public institution and you have public funded research, it's very easy. It's just opening the results of the data that you get money to have. This is a very inspiring cartoon made for the Research Data Alliance. It's something like, I don't want to give you your data, just, well, give me your money back because I gave you money for this research. It's very easy. But that's why I was updating this presentation until the last minute, because this morning, datos.gov ES, which is the Spanish site for transparency and for open data as such, administrative open data, they say why the open data in science push transparency at governmental level. So we are in the same page, but we are different communities. We are constructing portals for the administration, and we are constructing repositories for research data. What is the problem of joining them together and make the research in a public institution as a part of the transparency of the open data policy? So if we think about, again, with the why I will publish my data, this is just with the thinking of the researchers. Carol Technopier, which is a researcher of the University of Tennessee, that she's currently in Finland as a Fulbrighter, and she's very famous for her thoughtful studies on surveys to researchers, institutions, etc. She just made a wonderful survey for libraries in the context of LIBE. But she did in 2014, and in the context of Data One, which is one of the biggest infrastructures in the US, she made an interview to some of the researchers, around 1,500 researchers in the US. And the main barriers to share the research data, they were kind of, I need to publish, so I need to do what I get the credit for. That's why I say we need alternative metrics or new metrics to give credit for this, because the researchers are only interested in what they get, what the credit they get. What are they going to be promoted? To have publications in the first high top level journals, or to publish the data that they are doing in a thesis? This is a question of incentives again. They don't have time, they don't have money, they are shy about if they have the right to share this data or not. It's a question of also the property and intellectual property rights. Do not need those data, which is another interesting answer. We don't have standards, we don't know how to do it, which is the other problem. And we don't have an infrastructure to put our data. And also, sometimes we don't have the sufficient skills to do it. And I think we have to do something else, is the question that we were talking before. Researchers and people working in the universities, they have too much to do, so they are not willing to do something else, which is now sharing the research data. And a similar survey in the context of Spain, there was this data that my friend Fernanda and her colleagues, Rafa and other people in the University of Valencia, they were asking a Spanish researcher about what are their fears about to share the data. And the most common answer is that they don't believe in the current infrastructures. They don't think if it's going to be there, the research data for 10 years, as Daniel was thinking before. And I think it's very, very nice how we think the researchers in the way of sharing data, because we are based on fair. We are based on, instead of being fair data, we are just, we don't dare to do it, that's a problem. And also, we don't have policies, because if we start thinking about the how, if we start thinking about the how, it will be very easy. We have a national policy, or if we have 10 minutes, no? More or less. If we have a national policy, or we have a local policy, it would be easier. We do what the policy asks, but we don't have one. So we only have a fair taste. This is an image that I love to use, because it's coffee place in Amsterdam airport when I was going for a talk in the RDA once, and I say, well, this is what we have, just a taste. We know what it's gonna be, but we don't have any policy around. We have also recommendations, but what the European Commission says about this is not very much. It's just, again, a taste. If you read the guidelines on fair data management in Horizon 2020, you don't have any answer. You have more doubts. You have more questions. So if you are looking for answers, don't go here because you will have more questions. So what are we doing in Madrid? My university belongs to a consortium of universities of Madrid, so we have to do something because we are open. We have to be open. We have to tackle this. And the universities of Madrid in the Consorcio Madroño, we start first doing Pagoda, which is kind of a national version, a translation into Spanish of the DP Online, which is the data management plan tool to make data management plans in the Digital Curation Center in the UK. And we make a national version to help our researchers. And this year, we also put in place a repository. But in this case, we don't have each university their own repository, but we are sharing one. Well, this is a big step because we are not doing yet another repository for every institution. But now we have the infrastructure, but we don't have the data. Do you have any data to share with us? Because that's a problem. What is easier to do? Best you make the policy and then you serve with infrastructure? We have the infrastructure, but we don't have the policy. So we are very happy that the European Commission is asking for the data from this year. So we are willing to have data because we don't have a national policy to do with this, and also we have a lot of doubts to solve. And also we keep thinking about how, of course, there is the principle of one size does not fit all. It happens to be that it's what happened in the scientific landscape for research data. Every domain has their own vertical approach of metadata, of interoperability, and also about the amount of data they have. But the universities, we are here in the long tail of data. We are not CERN, that was mentioned before. We are not going to tackle big data, but we have data. And the problem is that there are too many things that they have the same sort of name, data. We don't have big data. We have to deal with data. Our data are research data, but they are open data because they belong to the public administration too. So we have to deal in this area with the infrastructures that will let us to share our long tail of data, that I think they are the ones that they are going to make the difference in the interoperability of things. And if we think about the how, last week was introduced the European Open Science Cloud, which is now still a pilot. I love the way Paul Aries defined it as a brave initiative. I think it's a very good way to define it, because it's something that tries to have the infrastructure for all the research data in Europe that will make long-term and sustainable, that will connect scientific people, that will make linked data as a technology. It's a lot of promises, but in my opinion, with the hat of a policymaker institutionally, you think, well, and what is this going to affect my institution? How can I deal with the European Open Science Cloud? I have my repository. We have the repositories for the universities of Madrid. And then now I have yet another infrastructure to be compliant with. I have made an effort to be compliant with OpenAir. What is this? This is what we really think. It's what I call is the European Open Science Cloud. For me, so far is where the wild things are, because it's everything big, everything not clear, and we don't know how to manage that. It's, of course, a clear message, again, for the Commissioner Moedas that is embracing this thing. And is of course a federated and accessible environment to help sharing data, help to make the determinant infrastructure for the open science. But still we need to pin down how it's going to affect this to our institutions and who is going to take the lead at national level. We think, probably this is not the context because we are not all Spanish here, but I think probably we need to think about what is going to be the strategy at a national level, also not for the policies, but also for the infrastructures. And this is what we have. This is the technology, which is in our main target. The technology is not the challenge. The technology, this is a slide that Barend Mons used pretty often. He was the chair of the high-level expert group of the European Open Science Cloud. And I think what is really the challenge is what it is in the bottom of the iceberg. The ecosystem, the funding challenge, the skills. Do we have the people that they have the skills to tackle the infrastructure that we are creating or that we are about creating or we are facing to? Probably not. Do we have the mindset to deal with this challenge? No, we don't. Perhaps those who we are in this room, yes, but go outside there, this is a public university, and talk to every researcher. They don't have the mindset to do this. So what I think is important, I'm just finishing, is to think about what are the motivators of will. I refer to motivators of will like the ways on incentivize the systemic change in our universities, which is the way of incentivize the systemic change in the whole open science world. And the motivators of will so far are money, law, and rankings, that we can translate it into carrots and sticks or whatever you want. But also I want to put in place, or I'm putting in my perception of my policy, because I'm working right now in the open science policy for my university, and I think we need also another motivator of will, which is seduction. What is seduction? Seduction is WhatsApp effect. Why we all use WhatsApp? Because it's cheap, because it is terribly useful and terribly easy. No one researcher is going to tackle something that is not easy, cheap, and useful. So you need credit, you need money or something, or ranking. Put me in the context that I am the best researcher in the whole university, the most open researcher in the university. That's giving me credit. But make it easy, because if not, I'm not going to do it. Give me money, but give me enough money that is worth it to make a data management plan. Because to make a data management plan, even if it is just a PDF, even if it is not actionable, machine readable, it takes a lot of time. So if I don't have a real excuse to do it, perhaps there are a lot of researchers that you are an example researcher, Daniel. I want you to know. But you have to lead with the other researchers that they don't have the motivation to share. So what are the lessons learned that I have to be here still in the orange light, and willing to have at the end of this year a full-fledged policy that we can publish? One of my recommendations of my things of this thinking is embrace the international or the European policies. Don't reinvent the wheel. So just it's easier to say to your rector, what I told to mine, it's nothing that you can say against that. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. We have to be there. Even if you like it or not, you have to be there. Also, in the question of infrastructures, cooperation. There is an African sentence that I love to cite, which is that if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go farther, go together. So don't spend money. That is very handy that we have this crisis in Spain, because we don't have the money. So that's a good option to cooperate. Another thing, include open research data in the institutional policy as soon as you can, because this is one of the motivators of will. Why you have to do it? Because I told you to. And people say, no, it's better if you have the carrot. But I have figures. In Spain, we have the recommendations of open access for many years. But when we published the thesis in open access, when it was in the law, that's clear effect. Also, I'm working now in this moment on convince internal incentive. We cannot change. We are not so lucky like in the UK that they have common standards for promotions, they have this ref policy, they have these things that they can apply for the whole country. We cannot apply these kind of principles for a public university for promotion, but we can apply for giving our own money inside the institution. Incentive, money, which is another motivator of will, because the most sensitive part of the human being sometimes is the pocket. So that's why. And also ranking, put people in order. I'm thinking of making prizes for the students, because I think what is really key issue is to change the mindset, is to work on the early career researcher. That's why it's so important to have this Foster initiative, these training courses for new PhD students. It's the question that we have in this document that Daniel and I were working in the Vision 2030, that I say, what would you prefer? A student that has a blog, that everybody knows him, or a student that has a current publication in the first top journals? And sometimes you need to motivate the students to have this change in the mindset, to share at the beginning. I have an idea, just share the idea, and then try to make the proposal out of the idea. And also think about that the best is the enemy of the good. This is a very Spanish sentence. I don't know how does it sound in English, but it's my own lesson. I'm waiting. No, let's wait until we have the strategic plan, because with the strategic plan I can convince the rector. You say it in the strategic plan. No, let's wait for the European Open Science Cloud, so we have the setup of the infrastructure and we can be compliant. No, let's wait. We are waiting too much. I think we have to do the best policy is the one that is in place. And just to finish, instead of a conclusion, I will use one of my favorite questions, which is with the question that we pose in the video of the Netherlands presidents. And this is my favorite question about these kind of topics when I finish a presentation. And you, what are you going to do in your institutions? Thank you very much.
So thank you, Eva, for this interesting presentation. Who's going to ask first?
How many of you are working currently in a research data policy? Those that you have open access policies, you have to work on that. Okay. And have you think about the same things that I'm guessing and I'm trying to think over to tackle that? Do you have more questions to share? Because I don't have answers, but questions I have more.
Okay, it's not really a question, it's just something that I really think. And maybe from the Catalan perspective, we can compare with your situation in Madrid, because we have not, in some parts it's different, but we have some pieces of the infrastructure. We have solutions for deposit data, also tools like a data management plan, and another piece of this, apart from advocacy and things like that, is of course the policy. So in the consortia, we are working to try to write a draft for all the universities, and when the moment will take place for each university, the library service will propose or offer to the institution a text, a draft, that we hope it will be useful for the university to develop a policy on research data management and on data. The thing that I think quite times is is it possible that sometimes we can present the policy too early? Not you were saying yes, we have to act. It's not always after, but in some cases, and comparing with the open access movement, that it takes a lot of time to be developing. Now I think that comparing the movements, we are going quite fast, or we are trying to move pieces. We don't know in which grade we are really going fast, but we have some pieces more earlier, quickly that we had with the open access movement. So the question is, or the feeling is, aren't we going too fast if we want to present a draft or a policy just by now? Maybe it's easy to wait until, for example, a national approach, not about a law, but some agencies funding and ask us to preserve and deposit and publish data, no? Which is the...
I think you are completely right. I think, yes, we are too quickly. We are just going very fast, but because the thing is there, people, I mean, in the case of Spain, we are urged to have these infrastructures and to have these approaches, which is something like urgent, because we want money. Is one of the motivators of will, the money of the Horizon 2020. If we wait until the perfect approach at the national level, that was what I was trying to urge from the, the political setup, we will be in 2020 and we will not have our own policies. And what we have, I don't want to repeat the mistakes of the open access movement. I mean, mistakes in terms of yet another repository, let's make another repository, let's make another approach. I think we have to apply what we have learned in the open access movement to this, but not trying to do the same, because I think it's a different speed movement, different approach. We have OpenAir, the aggregator of publications, but OpenAir started being funded as project by project, first driver, then driver 2, blah, 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 and then is the thing. And now the approach is top-down. I mean, what happened with the research data is that the approach is top-down. So if you are down, you don't get the insight of the top, you are lost. You are lost, I mean. So you will lose the opportunity to approach that setup. For example, in this case, even in the terms of infrastructure, the European Open Science Cloud is defined before the movement of data. We don't have many data and say, what can we do? How can we share it? What happened with the publications, It's different. We have to share them. This is the setup. We have to do it, trying to construct. And I think, in my own experience, because I'm waiting, and I think we are too early. Actually, when Madroño people told me that we are going to do this working group, that Marisa is here, and they're going, and I say to my head librarian, I think it's too early. We have to wait until the European Open Science Cloud has established the standards or something like we can. But I say the sooner you start, the better. And the best policy is the one that is there, not that is the perfect one that is going to be.